I think this is one of those things that some people are gonna really struggle to get. There's a lot of dark shit that you guys are not understanding about this AI art that I'm gonna get into now that I really hope will help you get that while this is fun for you right now, it's really not a good thing. Hey guys, it's Kat, and it's time for another episode of True Tea. I wanted to thank all of you guys for joining me for yet another episode of True Tea. If you're seeing this video, that means I've gotten my shit together and managed to get a True Tea episode out for this month and hopefully for the following months to come. If you guys missed it, we have turned True Tea into a monthly show instead of a weekly show. I have measured my amount of time that I have and realized that I can only make a monthly commitment to this podcast, but I'm so excited about being able to continue to do this. Thank you guys so much for your encouragement. I am sorry that I've been gone for so long, but we're gonna be coming back stronger than ever. As per usual, we will be having a call-in show every Wednesday after the show goes live. So if you got something to say about this topic, I would love if you came and called in to the call-in show. Now, I just want to, as I'm pouring my drink for this episode, give you guys a little bit of insight on where my head has been and what kind of content I've been creating and what's to come for the year. I've been honing in a lot on what I consider to be my, I would say, creator ecosystem. And I realized, especially as I've gotten off of Twitter, that I have a very specific thing that I really like to do on different websites. And I would really love if you guys followed me on those other websites because I'm actually posting more content there than I do here. I've got a TikTok, I've got an Instagram. If you guys like bite-sized content that is about the things that we talk about on here, definitely check out my TikTok and Instagram. My Instagram is cat_blaque and my TikTok is katblaque, all one word. I'm so happy to find a space on those platforms where I can be more creative than I can be here. And I'm working on a lot of other things to come, some video essays in the future. I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing me blab. Let's take a sip of this and let's get right into the topic. So I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I actually have a lot of feelings about right in this specific moment. We're gonna be talking about AI art. This video is probably gonna go live a little bit later, so I don't know where we are in the story. And as we will discuss, this is one of those things that keeps rapidly changing, and I have a lot of feelings about it, so you'll have to let me know if things have gotten better or worse since the time I filmed this video. Right now, it is a really, really hot topic on my social media pages because I have a lot of artist friends and I have a lot of friends who just really like seeing themselves in AI artwork. And currently where we are right now in the timeline is everyone is using Lensa to create these really cool looking AI art pieces that look like them. And there's a lot of conversation and a lot of debate about the ethics behind the technology that creates these pieces. And as an artist, I felt the need to talk about it. Now, you guys know or should know by now that I'm an artist. I don't make art as much as I used to, but I went to college for character animation. I went to Cal Arts and I pursued illustration a little bit after I graduated, but I quickly recognized that maybe I wasn't built for an art career. When I was working in commercial art, what became incredibly clear to me was that if the people hiring me could figure out a way to get my art but cheap, they would do it. If these people could basically not pay me at all and just sort of have the art materialize, they certainly would. Forever ago, when I was first introduced to the idea of AI art, I followed this Twitter, I think it was called AI Curio or something like that, and it would create these very vague, nondescript sort of images that gave you like the vibe or the aesthetic based on a couple of prompts. And I actually thought that it was really, really cool because you could look at it, the prompt would be like Cowboy Bebop, Akira Kurosawa, 1960. And even though it was a bunch of strange blobs that came together, it had the essence of it. And I thought that was really, really interesting. But at the time, that was what AI art was. It was just these vague, nondescript things that didn't exactly take form. Where we are now in the timeline is that that technology has actually rapidly improved to the point where people are getting some really, really beautiful illustrations from AI programs. And I, as an illustrator, have a lot of feelings about this because from my understanding, and let me know if I'm wrong about this, the technology behind these AIs have rapidly improved based on something called stable diffusion. Stable diffusion basically references a bunch of different images and creates the images from those images. And when you feed images into the AI, it just gets better and better and better, and things take more and more of a shape. And the problem that a lot of artists are having is that some people have fed their art non-consensually into those programs, and people are able to very easily create some really nice artwork using other artists' work. I'm going to insert a TikTok right now that's going to go over a little bit of this a bit more because this was an artist who actually had their art directly stolen. I haven't had this happen to me yet. Let me just paint the picture for how a lot of artists are feeling right now.
Well, I didn't realize it would happen, but it did. Somebody on Reddit took my illustrations and made it into AI art. Here's my art versus artist this year for reference. They were being extremely secretive about who they were basing the AI model off of, but it's pretty obvious that it was my stuff. Like one to one, I could point out which ones were used for which section, I don't know. Like this one. I think this one's the most obvious one, to be honest. And this one. Looks like a few people kind of commented saying like, hey, that's, you know, Deb's drawings, and they deleted it immediately. So yeah, if that doesn't prove it, I don't know what does. Ownership, please. Though it got deleted, some people uploaded elsewhere, and I think it doesn't say here, but it almost has 100 downloads, so it's still out there. Anyway, this especially sucks because I've been spending a lot of years trying to figure out how to draw in a way that is completely my voice, and I figured it out. And in a matter of months, it became a bunch of zeros and ones. AI art is theft. It is an awful, awful way to just like steal from artists. It's evil. And if you use AI art, you are dead to me.
So stuff like that is why AI art concerns me so much. The fact that people can create art based on other people's artwork without their labor or work or anything. Now, some artists feel very differently about this. Some artists are really excited by the idea that they can generate art based on their own style, but I think it's really important to acknowledge that, like this artist, most artists who are included in this were included non-consensually. They did not agree to have their art used. Their art was simply taken and used without their permission. And I know that there's a lot of non-artists who have been entering these conversations and not exactly understanding why this is so upsetting. So let me explain it for you, at least from my own current understanding at this point in the timeline. So the reason why I'm not personally a fan of AI art is that when I graduated college and I had worked a little bit in the animation industry and I was starting to work in children's illustration, and then I had time in between jobs, I would do commissions. And a lot of the commissions that I did were of portraits of people that are quite similar to the ones you guys have been seeing through Lensa. And I know that for the kind of person that this content appeals to, the kind of person who wants to get an illustration of themselves that looks cool and all artistic-y, right? Those kinds of people are completely satisfied by something like Lensa that essentially steals from other artists. If these people could basically not pay me at all and just sort of have the art materialize, they certainly would. What I'm realizing, understanding all this stuff about stable diffusion, is that someone could literally take my artwork, feed it into an AI machine, and instead of directly commissioning me and paying me to create a portrait of themselves, they could literally just generate it from the images that I've posted and images of themselves. Now, technologically, that's a really cool thing, right? That you could actually just create something that looks like my art from my art. I think that that can be cool and probably has a lot of uses, but I also very much understand, I very intimately understand. Ultimately, if I were still a working artist, if I were someone who was still taking commissions and creating art in that way, my job would become obsolete. And I think something that's even more frustrating to me about all of this AI art stuff is that I'm already seeing people essentially create opportunities for themselves that artists could not create for themselves. What do I mean by that? I went on Instagram the other day and one of my acquaintances was posting a bunch of AI art. They are a blogger, but they're not necessarily a, I would say, well-known creator, right? Now, through AI art, they were able to generate these really, really pretty illustrations of very popular characters in a baby form. The one that I saw was a Harry Potter post, right? He created all of these Harry Potter images using Midjourney. And I think that these sorts of images, if they're just something you're looking at on social media for fun, I don't have too much of an issue with it. I will say that one of the issues I've had with AI art is now I look at art created by humans in my feed and I just sort of feel a bit like it's all the same. It kind of melds in together. So I've unintentionally trained my eye to not see art, to suspect that it's AI art. These images that he was posting were getting a lot of engagement. He was getting a lot of followers from it. People really, really liked it, right? And he has started to sell them. That's right. This guy is selling these AI art images of characters that were created only through AI. And it's something that bothers me mostly because I've seen how many artists actually struggle to create stuff that has this much engagement, things that can sell that well. And this person is essentially selling artwork that is ripping from other artists' artwork. And that to me is just, I think this is one of those things that some people are going to really struggle to get. But for me, it feels no different than reaching over the table and spitting directly in someone's face. It just, to me, it's so disrespectful. And the thing is, in the very pictures that he posted, you can see from some of the pictures that the AI machine was clearly referencing an actual artist. You can see the artifact of a signature there. You can see that this creation would not exist without the human hands that created it. But now we're creating a situation where some complete stranger can plug in the name of an artist and generate these new images based on their style, where their only talent in creating this art was knowing exactly how to phrase the prompt. And those people are selling it for a profit. Meanwhile, the actual artists of these images that are being stolen from often struggle to make ends meet. I'm never gonna be able to create as much art as an AI machine. When you're working as an artist, you realize pretty quickly that people do not value artists, not in any real way. We talk a lot about supporting art and valuing art and appreciating art, but people often don't want to go into their own pocket, right? Even before AI art, I had pretty consistently the issue of people who wanted to hire me, wanting to use my style or get something that looked like I did it without paying me what I felt like I deserved. There were plenty of times where I would give someone a quote. I would say, hey, this is how much I would charge. They would say, no, that's too much. And the reason why that was frustrating is because I was already lowballing myself, right? I think back in the day, I would do portraits for, I don't think I ever charged more than $200 for like a nice detailed one, right? The average one that I ended up doing was somewhere around $30 to $40, sometimes even $50, but it was usually around that range. And I supported myself doing this. I went to college for 4 years. I've been working on my art for decades now. My art takes time, it takes talent, it takes research, it takes reference, it takes a lot of work. And for me, I believe that I deserve to be able to support myself if I'm creating something for you for your benefit. That is something that's understood in pretty much every other context. But because art is often seen as this fun, silly thing that people are just enjoying willy-nilly, there are a lot of people who do not actually support the idea of supporting an artist. Right? And that's what's so frustrating to me about all of this is in every post that I've seen where people are sort of, oh, well, here's my hot take on AI art. A lot of them are laced with this like base resentment for artists, right? There's some people who think that artists are elitists, right? If an artist asks for $200 to create a portrait of your favorite character, they're just an elitist looking down from their throne asking you to beg and whatever. And it's like, no, you're just paying an artist what they're worth. And the reality is most of you guys don't want to commission artists that could complete the illustrations that look like your AI art illustrations that you're posting from Lensa. You would never want to pay an artist who actually has that degree of technique, where they're making it look so realistic and so like you, where they're doing it in this very specific way. That on its own requires immense talent. Immense talent. And a lot of you are not willing to pay for it, but you are willing to pay an AI app. And I get it. It's quick and easy gratification. You plug in your 20 pictures, you plug in an artist's name or whatever, and you get your picture, you get your image, and it's nice to have it. It's a product that you have now, and it feels good, right? But there's a lot of dark shit that you guys are not understanding about this AI art that I'm gonna get into now that I really hope will help you get that while this is fun for you right now, it's really not a good thing. What if I told you that there were people who were using AI art right now to create CP? What if I told you that the AI machines you're using to create these things are full of revenge porn? What if I told you that the system that you're using to generate your AI art has access to your medical records? It's interesting to point this out because I find that some people change their tone when they realize that Stable Diffusion is reliant on a system that has really unethical access to images. Yes, of course, there are people who have already figured out how to do fucked up shit with it. And when you give apps like Lensa your 20 images to create this portrait of yourself, you're only training it more and more and more and more. You're helping it become more accurate. You're helping it become more understanding of the human form. And people just do this. And it's funny because we point this out, and in so many ways, we can also point out that, yes, there's a lot of other things that do this as well. I mean, if you got a Facebook page, if you scanned your face into your phone, there are people already selling that shit, right? That's already something that is up for grabs. For me, it's so interesting because people are willingly doing this. They're willingly sending in all of these images and they're willingly posting these pieces of art that steal from other artists, right? It's interesting to me because it's such an obvious case of people just feeding themselves into the system, but people are probably going to still do it. And the thing is, it's not like I'm against AI. I'm really not. I use it in some situations. For me, this is one of the most concerning aspects of AI art, but I'm not going to say that I'm completely against all use of AI. I think that there are definitely some uses where it makes sense. I use AI all the time. If I'm making a thumbnail and I want to like make the picture smaller and fill in like a blank space or something, I will use AI through Photoshop to do that. And I don't think that that is an incorrect or improper usage of AI. What bothers me and concerns me are these pieces of art that are being created, stealing from other artists, that are then being sold by strangers who have probably never given the artist any money, any access, anything. That's what really bothers me. I mean, I'm thinking of this just now, like how could we do this in a way where it would be okay? Maybe we create a situation where artists give their consent to reference certain images. And then if you want to reference that artist, you must pay a certain thing and that artist will get paid. But I know that's not going to happen. If that were even on their minds, they would be doing it already. They don't want to do that. The people who love this shit just like getting something for barely anything. They don't want to go through the artist. They don't want to pay the artist. They don't want to support the artist. They don't want to actually help the artist survive. They want their art and they want it now. I have some people in my life who love AI art and I have a hard time being around them. I have a hard time looking at AI art and not viewing it as a spit in the face. It's something that for me feels so callous and disrespectful and shitty that I've got a really, really hard time with it. And the thing is, I've had a few debates with people and it's like, you can just tell that they don't get it, right? One of the debates I've gotten into quite frequently is, oh, here is a hand-drawn or hand-painted version of a photograph. Is this person stealing from a photographer and da-da-da-da-da-da? And no, because it took a lot of fucking talent to create that. It's not click, 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 a few filters, you create it. They actually had to learn how to make this look just like that picture. And that is hard work. Anybody who's ever done that knows that it's hard work. No one sits and, no one realistically believes that these are the same thing, right? I had one stupid conversation where someone was like, oh, the invention of the smartphone has disenfranchised photographers everywhere. That's another stupid one, because the photos that you're taking from your phone, in your hand, in your day-to-day life are completely different from the photos that a photographer would take of you, or photos you would take in a photo studio. These cameras may be nice, but they're not a replacement for a photographer. And if you've ever tried to do anything like this YouTube shit with the lighting and things like that to try to get a better image, you know that, right? Because it's not easy to make it look nice without a lot of work, and that requires a lot of knowledge. Knowledge most people who just want to look cute in a picture are not going to have. So no, you guys, it's not the same thing, and I'm tired of these comparisons. They're not, in my view, comparable. And part of the reason why this is sitting negatively on my mind is I know that we have been inching closer and closer to what feels like fascism. And under fascism, one of the first things to go is the arts. Right? We're already having conversations about, instead of artists creating original art or being commissioned art to create from scratch, they are now talking about, well, why don't we run it through an AI machine and then I pay you to fix it? Because of course, with AI art, there's a lot of inaccuracies with hands and things like that. And I've seen some artists be like, hey, I want to do that. And I think if you want to do that, hey, that is a-okay, great, right? But the problem I'm having with it is that that is such a really sad existence. We're already seeing a really anti-worker mentality when you have people who genuinely argue that we're not worth being paid for our labor. That's just what this is normalizing, and that's why I have such an issue with it. Like, to me, if you want to generate some fun little pictures for yourself or whatever, I have a hard time taking issue with that. The issue I often have is when people try to sell this shit, when people try to gain traction or clout off of this shit. That's when I really start to take issue with it, because none of this would exist without the hands of a human artist. None of this would exist without someone coming and spending their time, their energy, their education, all these things that cost money and resources to create something that would ultimately be stolen by a computer. Like, it's a lot for me to process, and it just, again, makes me really happy that I'm no longer in a headspace where I feel like art is something to pursue as a job. I do it right now for fun, but that's not how I set out into the world to be. I applied to Cal Arts right out of high school. I got in right out of high school. I was 17 my first year of school. I wanted to work in the animation industry. I wanted to be an artist. And then I realized that people don't fucking respect art, and that it was demeaning for me to have to argue with people all the time about being paid enough to feed myself. The only people that I knew in the arts world who were able to really have a lot of upward mobility were people who already came from money or support. And so they were able to pursue it. I could not survive off of exposure. I could not survive off of getting nickeled and dimed by people who commissioned me. It killed me. It ruined all of my desire to work as an artist. And if I were trying to work right now as an artist, it would bother me even more. If I were in the position I was in after college right now, it would really fucking suck to see my job basically evaporate overnight. So That's how I feel about that. I'm really excited to hear your thoughts about this. So please feel free to call in for the call-in show if you've got thoughts about AI art. I'm excited to have this conversation. I'm also a little nervous to have this conversation. Hopefully I'll have it figured out by the time this actually goes live, but I will be live streaming with my face as I do these calls. So yeah, anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.